Merry happy holidays, my sweet strangers! Christmas is rapidly approaching, and with it more baking than any other time of the year, at least for us non-professional bakers. And I thought it was time for the ultimate Christmas recipe. In our country, there would be no Christmas without Christmas sweetbread Vánočka. I know it might resemble Challah, but it's different and quite unique to Czechia and Slovakia. So please stay with me. This sweet bread, which was baked originally only as a Christmas treat or a gift, has its origin all the way to the 13th century. And because this recipe carries so much of our family history, I invited my precious grandma, who's almost 90, to share our recipe with you. There was not a written recipe for this one, as my grandma always bakes by feel. So I measured everything for you to follow. So let's start baking. First, measure 1.3 pounds of medium coarse wheat flour and put it in a large mixing bowl. If you have one with handles, they will be handy later. Now you might be asking, what is medium coarse flour? Well, it's not fine or coarse. I have all three flours for you to compare here really quick so you know what to look for. I mean, you can still use all-purpose flour, but the pastry will be more dense. To start the yeast, pour 1 cup of whole milk into a pot. Turn on the heat to warm the milk up until it gets lukewarm to touch, but not hot. Add a 1.5-ounce cube of fresh yeast to the milk, crumbling it gently with your fingers. And add 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar to feed the yeast. Turn off the heat and let it sit and rise. Now let's get back to our mixing bowl and measure 4.3 ounces of slightly softened unsalted real butter. Then add the same amount of powdered confectioner sugar. Separate 4 eggs because we only need the egg yolks, and add all to our flour. Even though we are baking sweet bread, we need to add 3 to 4 pinches of salt for balanced flavor. Otherwise, the sweetness wouldn't have any depth and be very plain. Now, if you want to bring it notch up, add some fresh ground lemon peel from untreated lemon and a touch of vanilla. Stir the ingredients slightly and add the risen yeast with milk to the mixing bowl. And now comes the challenging part, a special kind of stirring. First, incorporate all the ingredients together. And then start turning the dough in a bowl with a wooden spoon, kind of fluffing and whirling, like this. The dough should be on the firmer side, rather than runny. But if you find it too hard to mix, you can add a little more milk. The purpose of this stirring is to capture fresh air in the dough, so the yeast has the best environment to grow, and to activate the gluten, so the dough gets smooth and elastic. Also, now is the time to take a tiny taste and see if you need to add any more salt. This process is a bit tedious, but don't panic. Even I was able to do it, so you will too. Just continue this way until the dough stops being sticky and starts getting smooth and elastic. Then it's time to rest. Cover the bowl loosely with a plastic bag wrapped in a fresh, clean towel so the surface of the dough doesn't crust, and let it rest in a warm room. Your room temperature should be slightly above 70 Fahrenheit. So if you have close to 60 like me sometimes in the winter, you better put the dough close to some heat, or it might never rise. But remember, too high temperature kills the yeast, so you definitely don't want that either. Keep checking the dough once in a while. It should be rising and getting even smoother and more elastic. In the end, it should be about double in size, which can take about 2 to 2.5 hours. Okay, the dough is well risen now, so we can dump it onto a floured pastry board. And it's time for raisins! Everybody loves raisins, right? Well, if you don't, you'll have to pick them out later. Sprinkle a generous amount on top of our dough and fold them in gently. Knead the dough very gently for a while to incorporate the raisins well and create a smooth ball. Then cut it in half and set one half aside. Each half will make one bread. Again, cover the bowl so the dough doesn't crust. Now we will make a small loaf and cut it into 3 equal pieces. Once we are happy with their size, we cut each one of them into 3 smaller pieces. Now we can assess or even correct our precision and regroup the similar sized pieces together. We will need 2 equal pieces for the top. They can be slightly smaller if you have such. A group of 3 for the middle and a group of 4 pieces for the base. And if you find out you are missing any raisins, there is always time to add more. Let's roll out our base pile first, making 4 strands like these. We'll start braiding them from the middle, like this. And then turn our bread around and finish the other side. Transfer the first braid onto the buttered baking sheet and make an indent along the middle with the edge of your palm for the next braid to sit in. Next, we will make a regular braid out of our 3 strands, starting in the middle again, folding the strands over and under. And we place the braid on top of our base braid on a baking sheet. Lastly, we roll the last 2 pieces and simply twist them together. Then we set the twisted braid in the little indentation on top of our previous braid. We pinch the ends together and slightly under to keep them from unraveling. And repeat the same process with the second half of the dough. The first bread will be slightly ahead with rising, but we let them rest and rise some more for about 20 minutes. The last treat is the flaked almond garnish. You can buy them ready-made or blanch and flake your own, which is obviously better. When the bread is ready, we brush it with a whisked egg for a golden crust and sprinkle it generously with almond flakes. Try to pick up most of the fall off so it doesn't burn on the baking sheet too much. Don't forget to preheat your oven to 350 degrees of Fahrenheit. The last thing before we slide them into the oven is securing the shape by inserting a few skewers through the braids, if you haven't already. So when it starts baking, it doesn't untwist and slide apart. Bake in a preheated oven for about 40 to 45 minutes. And yes, for those of you who noticed, because not all the footage aligns, we baked 4 Vánočkas total, for we always like to give some away. Depending on your oven, you might need to turn your baking sheet around in the middle of baking. And you can pull the skewers out towards the end to see if the dough is not sticky anymore inside. And here it is, a true jewel on a Christmas table. Isn't it beautiful? And so soft and tasty. Thank you for joining me here today. If you like my videos, please subscribe, like, and comment. It always helps. Thank you for watching. Have fun and happy and peaceful holidays. And I hope to see you next time.